right, so we got to talk about the Astros. Now, the Astros, they are off to just an absolutely horrible start to the season. And there's a hard truth that we're going to have to accept about the Astros, and I'll touch on that in a minute. But for right now, let's break down the good, the bad, and the ugly of the start of the season for the Houston Astros. Now, the good, the starting pitching. Starting pitching has been absolutely amazing, and they are actually first in Major League Baseball in Our starters have been doing their job. They've been holding teams down. They've kept us in these things. And despite all the injuries to start the season, the Astros are actually doing a phenomenal job with their starting pitching. So we got to give it to that. Also, kind of an honorable mention for the good. The pop in the bats is starting to be there. The amount of home runs that the Astros have already hit so far has been really, really good. So those are the good things that we can focus on with the Astros. Now let's get to the bad. And the bad, we also have to go back to the hitting. The hitting has been extremely inconsistent so far. So far, out of 7 games, the Astros have scored only 1 run in 2 of these 7 games. So the hitting is just not, it has been an all or nothing thing. In the 2 games that we won, we have dominated with home runs. Outside of hitting a bunch of home runs, the Astros are failing to score runs, especially when it matters most. They are 19th in Major League Baseball with runners left in scoring position. The Astros average 3.5 stranded runners in scoring position a game. Now, granted, the way our bullpen's been, and we'll get to them in a second, the 3.5 runs would not have made much of a difference in some of these games, but there are a couple of games that would have made a world of difference. So the Astros have to get better at situational hitting. Okay. You just got to, you cannot rely on home runs every single time. So far in the first 7 games, the Astros have scored 30 runs. 15 of those runs have all come from home runs. Now, not just the person hitting the home run, but with runners on base and things like that. But we cannot rely on so many of our runs for the season coming from home runs. It's just not sustainable for the course of a season. Do I think they'll improve in this? Of course I do. But they've got to start showing some signs, and we've got to do better in base running. How does Jose Altuve get picked off going back to third base the other night? How do you run? How do you fall while running the bases? This is just stupid, silly, little league stuff. It's not making a whole lot of sense this early in the season to be making these kinds of mistakes. And now we get to the absolutely ugly, and that is, of course, our bullpen. The bullpen has been a complete dumpster fire to start the season. They are 28th in Major League Baseball in ERA. Okay. Contrast that with the starting rotation that's first in baseball in ERA, and the Astros are third to last in ERA as a bullpen. All of the losses that we've suffered so far has been because of our bullpen. It has not been because of our starters. We have blown 4 leads already, including 2 by our new overpaid closer, which is just proof why you don't pay big money for closers. Closers can be manufactured, okay? There are guys that have to get 3 outs. That's it. That can be found in a lot of places, and that has been proven over the years. Have there been cases of absolutely dominant closers? Of course there has. Mariano Rivera, Eric Gagne, Dennis Eckersley, the list goes on and on, Lee Smith. So there are cases where there are proof positive dominant closers in the game, okay? I don't think Josh Hader is one of those, and I think you could have found those 3 outs either already on the team or from another place for a lot less money. Now, we have to get to a very hard truth about the Houston Astros. And I said at the beginning of this podcast, I am not a homer. I do not wear rose colored glasses when it comes to my teams. And if there's an issue, I will call it like I see it. This Houston Astros team is not a team that is built to win the World Series. I'm sorry, they're not. This is essentially the same squad they had last year, and they couldn't even make it to the World Series. teams around him have improved. The biggest upgrades that the Astros have made in the offseason were replacing Martin Maldonado with Yainer Diaz and bringing in this overpriced closer. That's it. Okay. I do not feel confident in running out an outfield every day where two of your three outfielders are Chas McCormick and Jake Myers. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I don't see that as a winning outfield formula. I don't. I'm sorry. I was all for the Astros getting Jose Abreu when he first came over. I defended him after last year, but I think the Jose Abreu's done. He is not going to produce for the Astros. And unfortunately, he's making way too much money and producing way too little for us to even be able to get rid of him at this point. Now you're looking at a situation where, yes, you've improved at the catcher spot. Yainer Diaz and Victor Caratini are a huge upgrade over what we've had. But you've got Jose Abreu at first. His backup is John Singleton, who is a great AAA player. You send him down to Sugar Land, he tears the cover off the ball. He comes up and he couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He's pretty much useless. You have Jeremy Pena at shortstop, who I think we can now all agree is not the shortstop we thought he was going to be after his rookie year. And to me, the telltale sign of this is in the offseason and spring training, they were working on a new batting stance for Jeremy Pena. Okay. This guy is now, what, 3 years, third year in the show now. Okay. You don't develop a new batting stance when you're in the show. You do that in the minors. You do that when you're working your way up and things aren't working and you work on a new batting stance. You don't do that year 3 in the majors. Okay? If you cannot hit the ball consistently in the majors, your batting stance is going to have very little to do with it. Now, granted, I will say there's tons of guys over the years that have tweaked their stance, they've tweaked their swing, they've made some adjustments, the hitting coaches notice certain things and they work on it and they become better hitters. I'll give it that. But I don't think that there has been anybody, and let me know if I'm wrong, because off the top of my head, I'm not thinking of anybody. But I cannot remember a single player that completely changed their batting stance and became a better hitter because of it. If you know of somebody, please shout it out in the comments. Let me know, because you may say a name and I go, oh, yeah, okay, now I remember that guy. But off the top of my head, I can't remember anybody. So Jeremy Pena is not that guy. Is he good on defense? Absolutely. But we thought he was going to be the guy that made us forget about Carlos Correa. Okay, and he did the first season. I was one of many going, Carlos who? But now we got a guy that's going to hit, what, 250, 260 maybe, and make a few great plays a year? Is that what we're hanging our hat on for the future of our team? And then, of course, you get to the outfield where, like I said, Tucker, solid. You know what you're getting every day from him. Jake Myers, I don't think belongs anywhere in a starting lineup in baseball, let alone with a team that is wanting to compete for a World Series. They needed to go out and get another outfielder in the offseason. They failed to do it, and they're going to pay the price for it. Unfortunately, the Astros are strapped when it comes to their spending, okay? For all the people that want to say Jim Crane is just cheap and he doesn't want to spend the money, no, that's not it, okay? There's these things called budgets that most teams have to abide by, okay? We're not the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're not the New York Yankees. They can't go out and spend 300, 400 million a year on payroll. They just can't do it. Not in this market. I'm sorry. It is a reality. Jim Crane is not going to spend $100 million in luxury tax just so he can keep winning a World Series every year. We won World Series without having to do it. They can do it again. Okay? But we've got to rebuild and retool this team. I hate to say it. I get it. Folks, this is the last window that they have to win a World Series. Unfortunately, they don't have the team to do it. Okay, I wish I could say differently. I wish I could say I am super pumped about this team's chances of winning a World Series. I'm not. I love the Astros. I'm diehard. I ride or die with this team, and I will defend them to the end of time. But you have to be real. This is not a team that's going to win a World Series, okay? It would be different if they made the World Series and just came up short. But this team could not get to the World Series with essentially the same team that they have now. What makes us think that they're going to win a World Series this year? Let me know in the comments below. What do you think of this Astros team going forward? We're not hitting the panic button here right now, okay? The season just started. Yes, I was saying during that whole series with the Yankees, these games mean as much now as they do in September. Don't let anybody try to tell you that the games in September mean more than the games in April. They all mean the same. You have 162 games that every single one means the same. Because when you lose the division or you miss out on the playoffs by one game, and you got swept in 4 games to start the season, those games matter. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What do you think of this team's makeup? Do you think the Astros have what it takes right now to win a World Series? Should they trade Alex Bregman? Should they try to rebuild this team, rebuild our farm system? If it gets bad enough during the season, should they look to move Bregman? Should they look to move Kyle Tucker? Folks, at some point, we've got to face some hard truths, okay? And if it doesn't look like we're going to win a World Series, we got to plan for the future. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the Astros now and their chances going forward.